Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and today we are going to be looking at the class of the monk. Admittedly, I'm having a hard time coming up with, how I'm going to do some of these classes, but this one shouldn't be too difficult, as this is something that the idea of the monk permeates a lot of what Wizard of Legend does. And I just rolled player's choice, so I'll probably just end up sticking with this as it's about the... Let me adjust myself in my chair a bit. It's about the most reasonable soundtrack in the game, I feel. Or do I want to stick with this? You know what? Let's go smooth jazz. What the hell, it's been a while since I've listened to this. Alright, so, monks. Now, strictly speaking, in Dungeons and Dragons terms, the fighting monk has been a type of priest class in 2nd edition before. I don't know if they existed in 1st edition, as my knowledge of 1st edition Dungeons and Dragons is extraordinarily limited. But they first appeared in 2nd edition, and their abilities there were, as one would suspect, all about using unarmed attacks and martial arts, as the current day equivalent of the monk would be those of the Shaolin Temple. And as such, monks are often seen as being these masters and practitioners of the martial arts and the abilities that go along with that. So for that reason, I'm going to take this very balanced robe, I think. I'm not sure if it's what I'm going to stick with, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to go with Spark Contact as a series of quick palm strikes. Now, there's all sorts of attacks in Wizard of Legend that go along with this idea of martial prowess. Burn Cycle comes to mind, just a series of punches and kicks. Another one that comes to mind, just right off the bat, a lot of jumping attacks kind of feel that way. Fadeaway Rhythm. Or Soaring Ivy kind of has a very similar idea, although that's made with a weapon and it's not quite just straight up punches and kicks, but you get the idea. So for the signature for this one, I feel Blazing Blitz would be okay, although I'm not good at that one. I don't think Tearing Whirlwind is the right idea for this one. Honestly, I think the right idea is Shock Assault. But I want to see if there's anything else that quite encapsulates the idea of martial arts prowess. Like Gravity Onslaught, kind of. But no, I still say that Shock Assault is the right idea. Then, for here, I think I'm going to go with Burn Cycle, because that to me is just the idea of... I wanted to check something. But that is the idea of kind of the advancing flow of combat. But then, what makes the most sense for our dash? I like the idea of Entangling Vines. I'm trying to see if there's something that's... Yeah, there isn't a whole lot that quite goes along with this idea, so... Like, there's nothing that's just like a dashing kick or like a flying punch. So we're gonna go with that. And because of how this is set up, I think I'm actually going to go, instead of with brute force, we're going to go this route because it's very... This build's heavily leans into ideas like this. So, let's roll with it. Oh, and I don't even have to try for the retro floor plan this time. Now, those of you who have been watching my channel for a while know that I'm not the best when it comes to these strictly melee builds. So, I'm gonna do my best, but you have to bear with me because this might not turn out as well as one would like. So going back to the history of monks in Dungeons and Dragons. Yay, that was awesome! So is that. That actually was kind of cool. Now, in 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, initially, instead of having the kind of specialized key mechanic, which in 5th edition they use for what they call flurry of blows, as well as other sorts of similar key-like abilities. What they had was limited spell casting, as the whole key thing wasn't exactly a part of things in 2nd edition. But they had automatic proficiency and use. Damn nitroglycerin barrels. Sorry, but they had automatic use of martial arts and unarmed combat methods, which again is meant. Okay, you guys are making me mad. Which is meant to kind of act as a mirror between them and kind of the Shaolin monks that's the idea takes after. And I'm going to be making reference to the Shaolin monks frequently, but that is because that is the closest thing to... Well, not only the closest thing to, but it actually just straight up is fighting monks. Like, that's their whole thing. And that's even what characters like Kung Lao and Liu Kang are based off of in Mortal Kombat. And I find it strange that those are the only 2 Shaolin monks in the game, but there are other monk-like characters, like Kenshi comes to mind. I want that, and I want that. I feel silly for buying the upgrade to Spark Contact when I could have just taken that. But it's still worth it for the increased critical hit chance. Are you? Oh, hold on, I'll just bring that right to you. So I'm trying to think, what here seems like it would constitute the idea of martial prowess? Like, if anything. I guess these two are kind of the best examples. The reason why I didn't choose tectonic drill is because to me that's not necessarily the same thing as martial prowess. That's just straight up a weapon. But one could easily also say, oh, but that's also more so just a dashing punch just infused with earth, which, you know, honestly, that might make more sense than Inferno Cannon. It's also just been a while since I've used Inferno Cannon. Well, like I said, a lot of the... or like I was starting to say earlier... a lot of the abilities and Arcana present in Wizard of Legend are based upon martial arts techniques, and have a... and it's also very obvious that a lot of it was based upon Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a series that makes heavy use and inspiration from the martial arts and from the idea of fighting monks in general. But getting back to how monks function in Dungeons & Dragons. Now, my knowledge of 3rd and 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons is limited, so someone is going to have to tell me how things worked in those as far as the monk class is concerned. Like, it's very possible that the monk just didn't have a very strong role in those editions, but I doubt it because it had a role in 2nd edition, albeit somewhat limited as the as their presence didn't really appear until the... trying to remember the name of the book. It was a Forgotten Realms book. I believe it was called Powers and Pantheons is where I first noticed the monk show up. But it was also in just the complete priest character handbook. As again, monk wasn't necessarily its own thing, but it was just a subset of priest classes. But the one thing that's always remained true about monks is that they're always masters of unarmed combat techniques. And in 5th edition, that was always... And hold on, we are going to go back here and grab this. Sorry, but in 5th edition, that's very prevalent with the idea that not only do they just get martial arts from the outset, but they also get a technique called unarmored defense, which allows which allows them to have a slightly better armor class than usual, without having to worry about picking up a lot of armor. And also in 5th edition, one of their big class features is that they can concentrate their ki into a technique called Flurry of Blows. And different monk subclasses get different things on top of that. So I think it's fairest to say that they became a much more fleshed out class with a little bit more time and investment put into making them interesting. Now, there are some people that feel that the monk really has no place in Dungeons & Dragons, which I find to be a genuinely ridiculous assertion. Monks existed at the same time as knights and you know, the traditional medieval fare, so to say that they don't have a place in Dungeons & Dragons is just genuinely ridiculous. And even if you want to make the argument of monks were only a thing because Gary Gygax thought Bruce Lee movies were cool, I mean, you know, are they not? I like the idea of the tattered scroll. Plus, that seems very monk-like to have something like that talking about information that's, you know, been passed down through your people and your monastery. Now, in Final Fantasy, the monk still incorporates a lot of the same ideas. Like, to the point where if you choose the monk class, well, first of all, they're starting like the early game weapons that the monks use in Final Fantasy 1 are nunchucks. So again, very Bruce Lee. But additionally, when they reach higher level, the monks' real advantage is that they do their most damage when they aren't equipped with any weapon at all. So not only was that a cost-effective way to have a powerful warrior in your party, but it was very flavorful. Okay, I didn't mean to go diagonally there, but, you know, thank you, sensitive controller. That's exactly what I wanted. I see nothing here that really looks like martial arts acumen, so And you could argue that Inferno Cannon isn't, but I would argue that it's a projection of your ki upon your fighting ability. Let's see, is there anything that I'm particularly missing? I don't think so. Oh, that was the wrong direction. Okay, we have a lot of electricity, so that'll work just fine. Sorry, I'm trying to carefully time my strikes, because just wading in and trying to take them on head-on seemed like a bad idea. And like I said, melee builds are not my strength, so I'm just doing the best with what I have to work with. Oh, finally, the upgrade to burn cycle. And I would argue Blazing Volt is probably a pretty good... To me, that symbolizes flying kicks. Which, yes, is kind of why I was looking at Soaring Ivy. There we go. Some quick movement and quick thinking will keep me safe, I hope. Now, admittedly, this is very much the idea of close quarters combat. Is you need to be jumping in and out of. I mean, I'm bunching up all the enemies anyway. But yeah, you want to be jumping in and out of combat and being aware of what your enemies can do. I mean, after all, when your enemies have... Ooh, nice. When your enemies have weapons, they have an inherent advantage. They have the advantage of range. There we go, we're the fairy rescuing monk. Alright, let's go. Let's quick take out the twins because they're... Alright. As far as the character that I'm associating with this, that is something that I hadn't taken the time to really think about. Not gonna lie. It doesn't mean that there isn't one. Doesn't mean that there isn't a character that I'm working on designing that's of the monk class. I suppose what I'm thinking is... Of course I want that. And at least in part right now, my thought process is... How is which... What type of, like, not what type of monk, but where do they hail from? Are they... Like, are they from an Asian nation? Like, are they Thai? Like one would assume of someone modeled after a Shaolin monk? Maybe they're Chinese. Maybe they're Japanese. Or perhaps, ultimately, none of that really matters. I think what it boils down to is I don't know how far off the beaten path of naming conventions I want to go. Because I do create a lot of Asian characters. So I've used a lot of, you know, Chinese, Japanese, Korean names for my characters, and there is always the outside chance that someone's gonna look at this video and go, "Wow, you're a loser weeb. Why do you even care about that sort of stuff?" And I guess that's kind of the fear right now, is that that's going to be more the focus instead of the focus being on, you know, the convention of the monk. You know how judgmental some people can be. Where did these guys come from? So if it seems like I'm being a little slow to reveal the idea, it's mostly because I hadn't 100% determined a name for the character. There's also the idea that I don't want to come off as being too, like, insensitive about things. I don't know, maybe I'm just being overly sensitive to all of this myself. And what it boils down to is that this is my anxiety speaking. I am definitely overthinking this. Instead of just enjoying the things that I enjoy, I'm looking at this as a, from an outsider looking in perspective and going, oh, but they're gonna judge me for, like I said, the whole weed thing, and, is it really even worth thinking about? Well, there's a martial arts technique. I'm just not sure it's what I want. Honestly, I think I'm gonna go for it. So, with that in mind, and the idea that I'm pretty sure I'm overthinking things right now, I think what we have is... I am going to say a traveling monk by the name of Gojiro. Why Gojiro? I don't know, it seems like a good name. But I mean, to be fair, I'd been contemplating a good number of names for the character. Like, what I could name him, Wu Fei, Tai Long. But I think what we have is a young monk looking to expand their knowledge by going on a series of journeys in order to improve their understanding of their practice and their temple's ways. Also, that was horrible. That room was just plain awful. Oof. Okay, some of these rooms are really stressful. Okay, it's a little bit late for the pewter bracelet to be of any real usefulness. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab this. Trade this into Dr. Song. Okay, I really don't need that. But, you know, it's nice. At least she gave me something. Interesting, but no. Yay! DOTFX! Now, going back to the point of how monks appear in Final Fantasy, obviously Final Fantasy 1 wouldn't be the only time that monks appear in the game. It's just they would also kind of relax some of those restrictions, like maybe it wasn't necessary for monks to never have armor in the game, or, you know, things like that. So later depictions of monk characters would include characters like Yang from Final Fantasy IV, Amaranth from Final Fantasy IX, Sabin from Final Fantasy VI. I guess you could kind of say Tifa is more or less a monk. You know, Final Fantasy VII. Same with Zell in Final Fantasy VIII. Like, they would continue playing around with the monk theming throughout the entirety of the Final Fantasy franchise, as there's always at least one character that symbolizes that whole idea of martial prowess and finesse. There we go. That was not smart. Owie. Oops. Alright, well, you know what? There had to be a first time for everything, and that would be my first actual loss during these class-based builds. And it is because, by and large, I'm not great with melee builds. But I still feel pretty good about this one, even despite that. And I hope you guys will take the time to try out this sort of like monk martial arts master thing for yourself. Give it a spin. Maybe you'll do better with it than I did. But ultimately, I find the idea of, using martial arts in role-playing games to be very interesting. It's always something that I've enjoyed, and you can rest assured that when I replay Final Fantasy 1, there's always at least one monk in my party because they are such heavy hitters. And it just makes good sense. I really like the idea of the monk, and I think it's something that should continue to play a role in, role-playing games in general. And obviously, fighting games are heavily based around the idea of martial arts and kind of the monk-like acumen. I mean, Ryu from Street Fighter is an example that I just thought of, but he's kind of that, wandering warrior monk sort. So, something to think about, but that is all for this run, so thank you guys very much for tuning in and continuing to support. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night wherever you may happen to be, and I will catch you in the next one. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and you take care, everybody.